Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to our channel. Thanks for logging on. Today we're discussing the Lange Sohne Grand Lange 1 Lumen. You can see this platinum Grand Lange with fully luminous dial and date disc on our website. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you enjoy these videos, and please click on the card in the upper right hand corner of the screen at any time during this video to see our full sales listing for this watch, with additional accessories included in the sale, high resolution images for your desktop, and naturally complete pricing details for this Grand Lange 1 Lumen. Released in 2013 and the second of a progression of Lumen-style Lange watches, the Grand Lange 1 Lumen is a 1 of 200 piece limited edition that takes the 40.9mm Grand Lange case and combines it with a sensational smoked sapphire dial base with luminous registers and fully lumed date discs. That is, the entire disc of the date for both digits is luminous. Now you'll note that the watch is reasonably slim, all things considered. 10mm thick with a generously sloped dome-style bezel. Across the wrist, it's also reasonable, though it is a Grand Lange 1. You can see that it's 49.3mm, and 49 or just under 50 I consider to be the threshold for comfortable use on wrists between 14 and 16 centimeters in circumference like my own. So this is a sizable dress watch, yes, but it wears compact on a smaller wrist. And you'll note one of the reasons for that is that the strap pulls straight down. There's no constraint in the movement of the strap. It doesn't try to flare. The lugs are relatively short, stubby, and downward turned. The watch does have an impressive heft on the wrist due to the sheer amount of platinum that's invested in making the case, the lugs, and the buckle, but it's not an overbearing kind of mass, and you can see that the back is so flat and regularly shaped, it really discourages pressure points or hot spots. The strap is of a high grade. You can see bolster down the center, very large rectangular scale alligator leather of the highest grade, a semi-gloss finish. You can see folded edges and a monotone stitch. On the underside, it is a more supple calfskin, and it's paired with a no-nonsense platinum pin buckle. You will note, however, that it has the retaining bar that Lange fits to its pin buckles, such that if you were to strap it down to one of the smaller holes, or even have smaller holes still made for the sake of a small wrist, sometimes when you really buckle a watch tightly, the strap will come down on the pin and get stuck, such that the strap is pinned to the pin. Well, this retaining bar prevents that ultra-tight cinched fit from taking place and effectively stranding the watch on your wrist. Lange thought of everything. The case itself is handsome, simple, and slender. This is a watch that has strong horizontals. As you can see, the junction between the mid-case, the case back, and the bezel, defined by the sweep of directional grain satin finish in the center and then the polish of the bezel in the case back. You'll note that even the pusher adjuster for the Grand Date features a directional satin finish. A little bit of contrast. The lugs themselves are distinct and sculpturally separate. You can see the dramatic step between lugs and case when viewed from the underside angle. The lugs are all of high polish. They do have a very slender and subtle polished tapered bevel along their edges. Now the bezel is all of high polish, and it's a nice juxtaposition of high gleam and the more muted tones of the smoked sapphire of the dial. This is the part where we can get a little bit closer. Now you'll note that the dial is broken up into a couple of distinct features. There's the hours and minutes at 9 o'clock. You can see that the hands, alpha style and crafted from white gold, are nicely loomed, as are the stations of the hours. You'll note that there is a baton-style seconds hand in its own sunken register at what would conventionally be approximately 4:30, 5 o'clock, and then you'll note a 3-day power reserve with its own loomed alpha-style hand. Now the Grand Date, which is a feature of Lange, the Panorama Datum or outsized date, features a pusher adjuster system that is as pleasurable to use as a fine chronograph. You feel it, you hear it. It has a wonderful indexing detent and a crisp snap when you release the button to snap the next date into alignment. And of course, it's a lot of fun to play with it. You can cycle through the entire calendar while you're busy in a meeting, just spinning your wheels and bored. The only thing that rivals it is flipping the case of a reverso, so this mechanism in good company as a way to while away the hours. Now, of course, you can see underneath the dial, and I'm going to see if I can increase the aperture a little bit to make everything brighter, but underneath the dial, you can see the twin fully loomed discs that comprise the outsized date display. One of the reasons the dial is smoked is to allow solar radiation or ambient light in so that the lume can be charged up, and at the jump of the date you will actually have a pre-lumed disk. It will already be glowing, so it will already have activated energy radiating off. Turn it all over. arguably just as attractive, if not more so, on the case back. Now, this is a movement properly sized for the watch. This was the second generation of Grand Lange 1, and so the movement was larger than the original. The original Grand Lange 1 effectively uses the Lange 1 movement. This is properly sized and shaped to fit the case. Now you can see all the characteristic elements of German watch finishing. Linear and beautifully richly textured glasuta stripes. We are not in Geneva. These are not Côte de Genève. You can see that the powertrain for the watch features jewels set in screw-fixed chaton, a tribute to the pocket watch era when manufacturing tolerances weren't quite what they are today, and it was easier to set a jewel into a bridge and remove it from maintenance by simply fitting it to a chaton and then screwing that into the bridge itself. You'll note that the watch also features a combination of polished, black polished, and kiln-fired heat-oxidized blued screws. Those polished screws are used for regulation of the mechanism, and blued screws denote those used for assembly. It's a little cue to your watchmaker that also creates a little bit of a kaleidoscope about the movement with the golds, the violets, the pinks, and the blues. Now you also note the silver elements, of course, black polished swan's neck regulator and a black polished cock cap to the structure that holds the escape wheel. Moreover, you can see beautiful mirrored anglage about the edge of every bridge and the balance cock, as well as the access port at the center of the movement. Three-quarter style bridge, still more German watch styling, a tribute to the pocket watch era when in general one immense bridge was placed over both barrels and drivetrain, which you'll also note is a freehand engraved, let me see if I can get a little bit closer here, but a freehand engraved balance cock, such that no two are exactly alike, and the designs themselves tend to be distinctive of the artisan who creates them, such that Lange can actually help you out if you ever visit the factory and let you know the name of the person who actually created that component for the watch. Now, aside from that, the movement has a 72-hour power reserve. It features hacking or stop seconds. You already saw the push-button quick set for the date mechanism. 21,600 vibrations per hour is the oscillation rate, so 3 Hz. It features both the dial side power reserve and courtesy of twin mainspring barrels. You can actually see their chaton set right inside the three-quarter bridge. An immense amount of torque and evenly distributed throughout the 3-day power reserve of the watch. That's the advantage of twin barrels, not just a longer reserve, but a more even torque release for better chronometric precision. Now it is a beautifully executed movement with 42 jewels. It's adjusted in 5 positions, which is chronometer standard. The one virtue it lacks is compatibility with water, as the timepiece is the standard dress watch 3 ATM water resistant. This watch is sensational. It's proof that though Lange is traditional in the way it regards the style of a movement, the grade of finish, and sometimes even the layout of a case or a dial, the Zeitwerk, the Lumen series, it proves that Lange has a sense of humor, not just a sense of humor, but a wry postmodernist sensibility that I truly appreciate. They are not necessarily the stolid Germans that you might assume. They're that, but they're also fun folks, and this watch proves the point. Stay tuned in a moment for an ultimate Lume shot. I have no idea what this is going to look like, but I expect great things. Grand Lange 1 Lumen. I bet you didn't know they made UFOs in Saxony, but this watch certainly lives up to that kind of billing. Once again, proof that Lange has a sense of adventure about its styling sensibility. This one is absolutely radiant, a sensational combination of traditional proportions and movement finish with an out-of-this-world dial style. See it on the watch box.